Hello everyone, how you doing? Well, it's a brand new year and I know everybody's been celebrating. So, you know what? I think I've been running around telling folks that now, starting this year, 2012, you are another year older, but yet still deeper in debt. And some folk have came to me and they said, what do you mean by all of that? I say, you're another year older, but yet you're deeper in debt. And then they're saying to me, well, you know, all my bills are paid and this and that and the other. I said, no, wait a minute, you got it all twisted. When I say another year older and deeper in debt, I wasn't talking about your financial situation, although that may apply to some people. Because some people, you know, may have all their bills paid, but some other folk may be still homeless today. Okay? Wherever you are in there, you're still in debt. All right. Now, you know, you might not like me in there, but that's okay. I'm just telling it like it is, you know. And matter of fact, that would be a sermon, but I'm not here to preach a sermon today. I stick to something I believe Emerson once said. Emerson said these words. He says, a man is what he thinks about all day long. A man is what he thinks about all day long. You know, and then something else came up. Vincent Peale. You remember that guy? You know, I know what you're saying. You're saying, oh, good God, this man has a vast understanding of history. But that's true. I mean, I do. And, you know, if I didn't, if I wasn't qualified to be here, I wouldn't be here. Yeah. But yet I'm still in debt. Okay, let me go on. But anyway, Vincent Peale said these words. He says, you are not what you think you are, but what you think you are. Does anybody know what he meant by that? You are not what you think you are, but what you think you are. In other words, what he's saying is you have not unmasked the potential to what you could be. That's already deep-seated inside of you. Okay? Because there are things inside of you have not discovered yet. And let me help you understand something. That's the thing about life. You discover who you are. You don't know you don't know exactly who you are. You discover who you are. All right? And when he says at the end of it, he says, you are what you think. Well, what you're currently progressing in your own self and your mind and whatever image of things or whatever you come to believe in, then that's what you are. You know. In other words, still in debt. It goes back to what I said earlier. You're in debt. Because when you haven't, I mean, some of us are behind. You know, when I talk about where we should be right now as opposed to where we are right now, some of us are behind schedule. But need not worry. You understand? You need not worry. Because this is not a show where I tell people where you falling short and where you fail and all this kind of stuff and all of that. Only thing I'm saying to you today is, if we could be a people we can admit to one another and admit to ourselves, we don't know it all. That we don't have the key to everybody's heart. Or that we don't have the bona fide, you know, situation in place, you know, as well as we think we have it. You know, I was telling somebody a short time ago, that, you know, you're either, on point. And when I say that, I say that to say, you either a person who's experiencing actual joy in this life, or you are a person that, will go after things to substitute, for joy you otherwise could have. Because truth be told, and I know this is real, and in light of what some people may have said to me and all of that, I've discovered something. Real joy, on the inside, to have all these extra things going on the outside, can I tell you the truth? You will enjoy it a whole lot better if your joy is intact. Right? But there's so many of us who have so many things, but yet no real joy at all. Now, my thinking is this: what's the purpose of having so many things, money, cars, and housing, and all this good stuff, and no joy? You can't even relax in that recliner. You can't lay in that sleep-away bed that's so comfortable and yet be comfortable. And the difference is I can. And I may not have what you have. I may not have as much as you have. But I can tell you one thing. I can lay away in a sleep-away comfy bed and be actually comfortable, because I discovered that it is not the things of this world that brings me joy. It's not even the money of this world that brings me joy. Surely it can bring me happy, but happy for the moment. It can bring me, I can fake happiness in the light of those things, but guess what? And you know what? Watch this. Fake that happiness and be tormented all the more. Let me say that again. I can build up a sense of happiness in accordance with the things surrounding me and be tormented all the more. And I know what I'm saying is right, because if I could bring it to Bible, and I said I wasn't going to preach today, but let me say, I could bring it to Bible, for every blessing there is a burden. Huh? Let me tell you a little story. You remember Abraham Lincoln? Surely, many of us remember Abraham Lincoln. You remember the legacy, And by the way, there's word going around. Many scholars have said, that Washington was not the first president. They said Lincoln was. I ain't going to tell you one way or another whether I agree with that or not. But here's the deal. You remember Lincoln? Lincoln was this guy, this president, I guess you could say. He was in place. This was a man who found books. He found books in a basement of this house, right? And, he stumbled onto it. It was kind of funny how it happened, that is. But, I mean, nobody's no dumb person, right? Okay? But let's watch this. Let's watch this for a second. Let me show you something. Because most of the things I put in word, I don't put in deed. Let me just watch this. he was a grocery clerk, was he not? And he was in this place, and he went through this rubble, all this pile of plunder and wonder, whatever that was in this house, and found all these books on law. And, you know, to make a long story short, if you recall, he paid 50 cents for these books. And I said earlier, you look at the legacy of this man who became president of the United States, so-called second president. And he was law. He was in law. He was in there. He did all that. But wait a minute. He paid 50 cents for a library that not only got him the law degree, but it put him in the president's seat. This is the point I really want to get out to you. How many of you, and I'm going to say this, how many of you have paid out lots of money for materials and other things for your education, right? And swore, you know, up and down, and I know you may have told others, you know, good God, I paid enough for this and this and this, so you know what, I better get this degree, I better go get this, I better get this right and do it and all this and get in the door and do all this, you know. I say this to say many of us are so much more proud of how we got to something and not really come to the conclusion that it wasn't about how you got there. It's not exactly about how you got there. You know what it's really all about? What it's really all about is your drive. Your drive to make it happen. We're talking about a man who made it on 50 cents, got a law degree, and finally the presidency. You know, many of us want to be extravagant in our travels and things, to tell other folk how we made it and what, you know, to make ourselves seem larger than life. But what that helped me to understand and other things like that. You know, I mean, for instance, and let me cover this and then I'll go into that. Many of us who've done these things, and you know, we're still concentrating on how we did it. And then once we get there, we're looking for the fanfare and all of that, you know. And we discover as long as we're in the flow, the fanfare will be there. It'll be wonderful, you know, all this wonderful stuff. But when the fanfare dissipates, then we don't appreciate it as much. My point is, many of us go after things, you know, and this and that, but it's not for the sake of us having this and having that to be able to make it and have, you know, and all of that, you know. It's not about us having these things that we may enjoy them and all of that. But somebody may jump on board and say, good God Almighty, we praise you. You are so great. You're this and that, you know. In other words, joy you don't have yourself. Somebody else has to fulfill it while you are making the transition to become better, to do, you know, in other words, some of us don't do it for satisfaction that we might, preserve the joy that's within us. But that others might climb on board and substitute, you know, that which we don't have. In other words, it's just like applying a fix You understand what I'm saying? Like a heroin addict, they shoot the needle in the arm and get a fix, bam. And then when it wears off, they need another. Well, that's how a lot of us are in today's world when we talk about climbing the goals and getting the financial gain in life and doing these things. A lot of us need people who want to extol us and bestow unto us the glory that we surely deserve, and that's supposed to replace the joy that's within us, you know, that we never ignited. And so somebody else feeds it and keeps feeding it and keeps feeding it, and that's good enough. But when it dissipates, so do you, and so do your legacy of being this, that, and the other. That's wonderful. And the third, am I talking to anybody? You know, some of us don't grasp the goals and things of life for the right reasons. Some of us grasp it so we could have followers. Okay, I'm done with that. I'm done with that. You know, I was talking to some people just last night, and I'm not going to talk about where I did this because, you know, I don't want to put anything out there, you know. But I was talking to some people last night, and I was telling them, I said, now, you know, what would it take for you to be an original? What would it take for you to be the example? You know, because it's not about conjuring up a scheme in life to cause other people to flock to you. The truth be told, you are getting the wrong applause. Because the applause you're looking for, and people know if you fake or fraudulent, because when they shackle on and they hold you up in high esteem and all this kind of stuff, the same people who be doing that will be the same people who be stealing from you sooner or later. They're going to do something wrong. They're going to do something really messed up. And you're going to be left to say, good God, what did I do all this for? But see, my thing is, be the example. Be the example. Be joyful from within. Especially women. I'm talking to women now. And I'm a man talking to women. You know, they always say women can talk to women, but no, I'm one man who can. You know, joy is not something you can purchase. You know, just like patience, it's not something you can learn. You either be it or not it at all. You understand where I'm coming from? So here's the deal. You know the old saying, the old folks used to say, to be or not to be, that is the question. But guess what? Be, you know, just said to be or not to be. Well, watch this. If I go backwards on that, it says to be or not to be. How about this? Be to not or be. How'd that go? To. Be to not or be to. In other words, here's my point. Here's my point. You know, you be the example, you know, then you will actually get the right people. The right people will come to you. The right people will flock to you. And it would not always be somebody who will look up to you. You know, because if you ever want to grow in life, you know what you really want to get? You really want to get people who know more than you, people who have, you know, come across skyscrapers you have not ever seen. These are the people you want to attract. You want to attract people who are where you want to be. See, if you're a person, you want to attract a lot of followers, you ain't saying nothing to me. You saying nothing more than you want. You're a follower yourself, basically. But let me find one person who's willing to attract leaders so that they understand that, you know, because it's your drive, it's your ambition, it's you. It's the finished product of you that's going to attract the things of life that you are about, want to be about, because somebody who knows better than you has greater than an answer for where you need to be. Now let me help you understand this, bring this to Bible real quick. Because see, most of us get it twisted. See, it is not us to make the decision who we should follow. I know that's going to kill somebody. The decision you make is to follow your heart, follow your compassionate self. Because once you make up your mind to do that, the rest will fall into place regardless. It has to. You don't decide seasons. Seasons have already been decided. See, when you're following your will, you headed for the basement. But if you follow the will of that which you believe in, then the rest will follow, depending upon what it is you are following, depending on what source is your main source. Am I making sense to you today? Is this beginning to reign in your spirit right now? Now let me recap what I said. I've already said it. Let me recap. Here's the deal. You know, your drive to do whatever it is you're going to do, to go to higher heights, or those things you want to be about, live about, and all that kind of stuff. Most of us do it so that others could take a look at us and either envy us or love us to death. You know, especially somebody who's looking down and saying, you know what, I know they thought I'd never make it. I know they thought I would be at the bottom of the basement. But take a look at me now. Look how wonderful I look. You are arrogant and out of tune. Okay? Let me tell you that right now. You are arrogant and you are out of tune. You may as well not have what you have, because you lost it after you got it. By the way, how is your blood pressure? Is it normal? You either be or you're not. See, I've learned, I wasn't always this way, but I've learned to be the example. And I have a lot of people come to me daily with different stuff all the time. But I also have a lot of leaders come to me who are feeding me to go to from where I am now to higher ground, higher ground, higher ground. See, the process must work like that. The process must work that everybody that comes to you who needs you, my God, you must go to somebody else who you need to fulfill the ground that you're walking on. But if you're the only source of that ground, let me help you. They'll just take from you, steal from you, get everything they can possibly get out of you, and when it's over, it's over. I stopped by to let you know, and I believe that T.D. Jakes said it best. You need to reposition your life. Who the heck am I talking to? You need to reposition your life. Don't stay there. Don't stay stuck there. I know some people that they are raised up idols all over the place and this and that and the other, and they're stuck. I'm like the man on the chessboard, the man on the checkerboard. Baby, make a move or something. Wow. Wow. Matter of fact, that's going to be the title of this one. Make a move. Because let me tell you something. I'm going to tell you something. One thing about the Holy Spirit, it's always moving. Some of us have reached plateaus in our lives and we're still standing still. And I don't care what it is. It's not the you know, the stuff you reach in life that determines that you grow in life. It has nothing to do with it. Has nothing to do with that. Doesn't have nothing to do with the other. Because just like some people, and I can say this, and I'm not going to say any names. Like so many others, you could climb to the goal of being a billionaire and still be naive. You can achieve greatness in life and still drink every first of the year because you made it. And still drug the first of the year because you made it. And all this kind of stuff. You can still have these resolutions. If I made it through the first of the year, and yada, 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 and I still, you still can do those things. Huh? What has changed about you in the last 10 years? Better yet, what has changed about you in the last 5? Okay. I said I was going to cut this. I'm going to cut this short. Now I will cut this short. Ooh, Lord have mercy. I'm feeling fine. You see, because I've discovered, I'm going to be the example. I'm going to walk by faith every day of my life until it's over. My pocketbook determines nothing. What I have determines nothing. But the source that I have determines everything. This is Rodney with another Hot Rod Special. I am out. Take care. Be blessed, everyone. Happy New Year.